just getting it moving, just rolling, you know how it is. Yeah. Good evening. We're doing our thing. Matt Warner. What's up, peeps? What's up, peeps? Cheers. I personally haven't had really any beers in, I don't know, quite a bit now, actually. I'm not going to say quite a bit, but at least a week. Just trying to bring her down. Because, I mean, my main problem is, obviously, one, we have so much downtime right now, so pretty much you start drinking when you wake up. Because what else is there to do? Pass out, get up, whatever, right? So I've been, good evening, Mike. So I've just been chilling on the drinks, and the main problem is, though, it's not the money, it's the munchies. That's the problem. I have too many drinks. Start smoking a couple doobies. I get the fucking munchies. I don't get munchies off of weed. I get munchies off of beers. Thank God I only have one beer because I just keep going and going and going. But just learn to chill and just, whatever, man. Because I'm trying to just keep her down. Noticed on the first couple videos that I did, I was feeling bloated because I was fucking just giving her. I was pissed. I was fucking pissed because this shit's going on and it's fucking up everything that I'm trying to, work with and everything like that. Like, we're supposed to start taking our trips nowadays too, to get out to everybody and start finishing off these interviews and just getting to the bottom of shit, right? And of course, this stuff fucking throws the wrench right in the machine, which means I stepped back and had to chill. But before the whole lockdown came out, I work at the local casino here. I do stagehand work and all that other shit. So we barely had any shifts even before the lockdown even happened. So it was at least 2 or 3 weeks before then where there was barely any shifts at all, regardless. So I've been fucking stewing for a bit, but I think I'm in a new phase of this whole thing, right? We go through our different levels of shit going on, right? So I think I'm in my new level right now. I got my fucking BMX going again. I got a sweet fucking BMX right now. It's all decked right out. So I'm just getting back into the groove. Fucking my eating habits are killer. And we're just fucking kicking ass, right? What's up? Everything in moderation. That's what it is. Hello from the UK. What up, UK? What's going on, peeps? So before I get started or whatever like that, taking a look here. This band here, I couldn't tell you how the fuck they spelt it. I just knew it was kind of like Morecambe or something, right? I knew it was that, at least that. Because I remember back in the day. Let's fucking cheers, everybody. Fucking be good, people. We got each other, right? We got each other. So there everybody is. What up? What up? Look at that. Gregory. Everybody's rocking. So this band Morecambe, I remember. Let me take a fucking sip. Actually, you know what? So this band Morecambe here. I received this band on a tape Had to have been, well, shit. Pretty much when, how I do judge it is I got this compilation tape, this Canadian compilation tape back in, well, when did Ungentile Exhumation come out by Cryptopsy, right? Let's see. I think around 91, 92, right? There we are. Cheers, everybody. Cheers. Actually, let me crack a window open here. It's going to get smoky. All right, let's try this out here. So I got this compilation tape back in, yeah, whenever Ungentile came out, which was that 92, right? Early 92. So this Canadian compilation. I still don't know all the bands that are on there, but this fucking band stuck out like a sore thumb. Don't know what it was. Their garage recording, whatever it was just fucking brutal. Had a killer groove, cool pace to it, killer blast beats, disgusting vocals, and everything. So, you know, obviously, you know, you ask around or whatever like that. My buddy Craig Newman, who runs CDN Records. Guy's got a record label for quite a long time. He's acquired a lot of shit too, right? So I'm like, Craig, you gotta have this fucking band Morecambe. And he's like, I do. I go, they're from Montreal, right? Correct. All right. Get me the fucking demo. Craig, you still haven't got me the demo. Still haven't got me the demo. Anyways, whatever. So, 92. That's right. Fucking cheers from Texas, eh? What up? Here we go. So Morecambe. Fucking, I have 2 songs, I think. And one song is like cut off. Super pissed. Great fucking little demo. Rehearsal. I don't know what the fuck it is. So, 27 years later now, whatever that is. Yeah, roughly 28. I'm talking, obviously, you know, trying to reconnect with everybody again and just put the word out there. Hey, guys, you know, hey, would you like to do an interview for a little streaming series that we got going on and all this shit, right? So, yeah, bitching at Craig. Yeah, Craig. That's the best. Great fucking guy. Anyways, so I hit up my, fuck, I can't even talk right now. I hit up my buddy Ken Escobedo, who runs the Ken's Death Metal Crypt on YouTube, which uploads tons and tons of killer old school shit, right? So, chat with him today, because it's like, you know, I would love him to be a part of, you know, this little streaming series that we have, just because he's old school himself. The guy's got fucking demos up the wazoo, and it's cool as shit. Cool as shit, dude. So I hit him up. I'm like, oh, it's out. That's okay. Save it for later anyways. Chris, what's up, Mr. Bruni? So I hit him up, you know, and we're chatting and stuff like that, because we're working on CDN and Growl Records. We're working on another collaboration. So I hit Ken up, because Ken, he's got a lot of shit, and for the project that we're working on, which can't divulge now in a bit, he had the stuff, so he sends it over. Fucking Ken, you're the best. Death Metal Crypt, Ken's Death Metal Crypt on YouTube, man. All old school demos. So anyways, so out of the blue, I'm like, you know, it's pretty obscure Canadian shit, right? Band didn't last too long or whatever, and it actually kind of picked up and started again later on, a couple years later. So I hit Ken. I'm like, Ken, man, you ever hear this Morecambe band or something from Montreal, I believe? And he's like, yeah. They did a split with Gorelust. I think it was on Dark Symphonies Records. I'm like, holy shit. So he shows me the tape. I'm like, holy crap, you have Morecambe. You fucking have Morecambe. So I'm like, okay, well, now that I know how it's spelt, so it's a E-U-M. So, you know, bam, start doing my research. Go onto the Encyclopedia Metallum, right? Obviously, man, that fucking place is just full of good shit. So, Dan Varga. Yeah, Ken's Death Metal Crypt, man, is an awesome channel. Fuck, dude, there's so much cool shit on there. Anyways, so I find them. I find Morecambe on Metallum. Start doing more research. Go back into YouTube and everything, because, you know, people are uploading everything up to YouTube, right? So I go on there. Boom. There's fucking live footage and some other like demo shit that I haven't heard, because like I said, I only heard that 1-3 song, I believe it was, or whatever, or at least that's what I got on that compilation. And I can't believe it. There's some fucking live shit on here. It blew my mind. Vocals are different on this. Ken, it's all about you, bud. I just chatted you up for like a half an hour. Yeah. So there was that, which brought me over to Ken. Again, thank you for letting me know how they spelt it. Morecambe. So this right here, remastered or whatever it is. What's that noise? Whatever that is. So Ken brought me to the spelling, which brought me to do my investigating, because I mean, it's a band that's been in the back of my head for the last like 27 years, and I couldn't get it out of my fucking head because it just had a certain sound or whatever. So this song even here, Hey Tross, I contacted them today earlier too, and turns out I went to, they have fucking shit for sale. They released all this stuff. Canadian shit too. I got to find out who you are. Anyways, so it brings me to this, and which in turn tells me, even Ken said the same thing too, their early band before Morecambe was Hyborian. So that's them before they went to Morecambe. I mean, actually, well, that logo is pretty bad compared to that logo. That's pretty good logo, actually. But anyways, So this led me from this to Hatros Records, which where is it here? Yeah, Hatros Records. So that goes like that. So this is the sound that that fucking show. Oh my God. Honestly. And Ken and I, again, we were talking earlier, and just about how awesome and the feeling is of just listening to demos and demo quality recordings, basement recordings, all that kind of shit. Because to me, when I first heard that, it was the first demo that I fucking heard. Oh man. Had to have been, I love grindcore and I love power violence and all that kind of stuff, right? So I jumped into Slap a Ham Records and got one of their Blar compilations, and it had all that, you know, the grind and the noise and all that kind of shit, right? And the recordings on them, though, were so fucking budget and raw and just basement that you can totally feel like you're standing there with them while they're just jamming and recording. So there's something about the demos that just bring me to that happy place of being just hanging around buds and listening to some fucking sweet ass music. So this Morcom thing and all that other stuff, I already exited it. So this Hatros Records, they released a whole bunch of the Canadian stuff too. Evening. There's Nick Sagias. Mr. Nick. What's up, bud? There you go. Sanguise. There you fucking go, eh? I don't know if you guys heard of these guys, but I think you should. They just posted on one of the comments there or whatever. So make sure to go doing some supporting, because these Ohio boys are fucking sick. And Devin, next time I see you, you better smoke me that joint, man. So I went to see these guys. I brought my buddy Rob. Yeah, he's a old school dude himself, old school death metal guy. So they were playing in Rochester at the Bug Jar with Mutilatred, Undeath, and oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyways, they're playing in Rochester, and I brought my buddy Rob, and he's a huge fan. I totally introduced him to these these guys, Sanguise Gabag, and And it's just fucking awesome. It was just killer, raw, brutal, just fucking disgusting riffs, man. And it didn't have that, like, the death metal rehash feel that, unfortunately, you know, once a cool genre gets hooked up, it just oversaturates itself. It's like everything, right? So it's cool because I've noticed just different pieces of, like, not like it, but yeah, it's not like a rehash, man. It's fucking great. And his vocals are sick, and Cam on guitars, and like, dude, great band. And you better be fucking making some new material, because these 4 songs ain't gonna last too much longer, man. I need some new fucking music, guys. So there you go, Devin. But yeah, so Ken, and I mean, obviously Craig too, and probably a lot of you guys too. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons why you watch, or maybe just, you know, hang out with us here, is just because we like raw, dirty, you know, death metal, man. You know, I like to produce stuff, some of it, not all of it, but I'm a basement demo guy, man. Like, that's what it comes down to, is throwing on that fucking tape and just hearing them. You can hear them, press record, and then just fucking go in the background. Hey, you ready? Ready? Won't go. And then you hear it. Like, it's such a cool feeling, man. And I noticed, Ken, you uploaded this Sarcoma on your Crypt. Fucking great demo. It is so dirty. So dirty. I love it. Well, I was gonna play some Purulence, but we can do that later. Another Canadian band. Went on this huge Canadian kick for a while after I did that little interview with the guys from Hellcast, and yeah, they just got me on a Canadian kick. Actually, hold on. She's getting windy out there. Went on a huge Canadian kick. And where was I even going with that? I don't know. Anyways. So, how's everybody doing tonight? What's going on? Mutilatred. Oh, they're fucking amazing, dude. On Death Rule. I know. They're good, eh? They added a bass player now, too, I believe. Yeah, great tour. Oh, yeah. And then Sangui is talking about, you got to talk about the Ohio bands, of course. Of course. Embalmer, Decrepit, Descend. Fucking right. Pornographic Seizures is so brutal. I know, Ken. I know. Fucking right, guys. Purulence destroys. Shouldn't I be shoveling? It's not snowing here at all, actually. Surprisingly, we're literally, this has been one of the warmest summers we've had in years. We had like maybe 2 dumps, but it didn't even really freeze. That was the crazy part. So yesterday, I went for a huge fucking bike ride because it was like 17 yesterday. Today it's a little chillier. We got some lake effect coming in. It's blowing water all over Fort Erie, Buffalo area. There's freaking winds like crazy, like 90 kilometers right now. It's still snowing where you are? Oh my God. Oh, Matt Calvert from Dark Descents just hanging out too. Right on, man. Yeah, man, it's been nice here, actually. So we've been getting our skateboards out again, getting our fucking BMXs and our bikes out. It's been fun. Yeah, first demo you heard was Cryptopsy. Yeah, man. It's crazy, man. That's such a great demo. 4-song Ungentile Exhumation, man. That changed the fucking forefront of death metal, man. Like, you better be. There's the contender now for speed and everything. Like, it's crazy. So fucking good. Oh yeah, Blood Coven too. Their old shit's fucking awesome, man. Yeah, they just put out some new stuff too. That's good shit. Dan was in Pain Eater. Pain Eater? That was his old Sin Eater. That was his old band. It's fucking awesome. Actually seen them too at they did a mini reunion in Buffalo. Again, our buddy Brian Pattison put that on. It was like one of the continuations of the Day of Death Fest or whatever, and Sin Eater was on that. It was fucking great. Yeah, Detroit's not too far. Yeah, well, I guess it's far enough to make it fucking weird, right? No snow here. That's severe weather down here in the south. Shit, eh? Yeah, man, we've had such a mild winter this year, and the only problem is I don't like it when it's cold. I like it when it's warm and it stays like this. We could have winters like this all the time, but the ticks are getting bad nowadays, which means the frost and everything, the deep freezes, didn't kill off enough of the bugs. So it's going to be, unfortunately, I think it's going to be pretty bad this year. So that's going to fucking suck. Anyways, let's see what's going on over here. Where is this guy? So we can just do this. And it's ringing. Hi, Albert. Oh, Raw Skull Records. Put a shout out to that too. We were just chatting with Ray. Disembodied, Florida, death metal demo. Raw Skull Records is re-releasing that one there too. It's fucking killer. Yeah, Burial. Again, more American brutal, old school. They put out Raw Skull Records. Check it out, man. They I don't know, Ray, if you're watching, well, Raw Skulls is watching. Yeah, I think he piped up in the comments too. So if you want to go just look through the comments of Raw Skull Records, man, they've been putting out tons of old shit. It's fucking awesome, man. Good releases too. It's cool to see like this, everybody appreciating the underground now, and wanting it on tapes and everything like that. Like it's rad. So Raw Skull Records, make sure to check that out. See if Albert's hanging around. Yeah, that Disembodied demo kills. Raw Skull Records, first extreme metal demo I've heard. Hey Albert, you just got to pick up the Facebook. Let's do it. He's got kids too, right? He just had a kid a few years ago, I believe. So, yeah, he was saying that he was working, just doing daddy duties. That's cool, man. Life. There's a lot of life going on right now. First extreme demo I've ever heard was the Hellhammer, 1983. I bet, man, especially back then, with just the whole scene is literally just beginning at that time. So anything that's heavier than, well, what's the usual then, right? I mean, fuck, everyone was listening to Iron Maiden and Judas Priest, and then all of a sudden it just got heavier and heavier, and then especially at that time too, right? 1983. Hearing that for the first time would be fucking like holy shit. And then when we interviewed Tom G, like he even said it too. Yeah, it's all cool, Al. We're hanging, we're chatting. Oh, he's calling me. There he is. There's the man. What's up, bro?
Alright, here. Let me see if I can get my microphone up.
There, I'm up too here, so you're...
Hang on here.
Right on.
1 second. Almost there.
Hey, it's all good, bro. We're just hanging out, man. Not much else to do. Oh.
It's calling me. Alright, almost there. Hang on.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, dude, big time.
Now?
There he is.
Ah, ha, ha.
Oh yeah, I can hear
Not
you.
much. How are you, man? Alright, here. Let me see if I can get my microphone up. Oh, wait 1 second. Let me hear this.
There, I'm up too here, so you're...
Hang on here.
Right on.
Sounds like
Success.
you are...
1 second. Almost there.
Hey, it's all good, bro. We're just hanging out, man. Not much else to do.
It's true, man. Cheers.
Yeah, man.
It's calling me.
Holy, we got some delay going on here.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, dude, big time.
Turn your audio off. You should be able to. You should turn your audio off because I'm.
Shit, I lost you again, Cam.
Oh, did you?
Cam, what happened here?
Yeah.
Hang on.
I don't know. Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Ah, shit. Hang on.
What up? Yeah, man. Just hanging out.
Growl. Wow.
You got Carcass in the background. You like Heartwork, eh?
Alright.
We got some delay going on.
Dude.
Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up?
Ah, shit.
Yeah, man. Just hanging out.
Growl. Maybe I should do this on my... Maybe I should do this on the phone?
Phone would probably be easier. Yeah.
Got Carcass in the background.
Here, call me back.
Let me try this on the phone.
All right. All right.
Dude, I'm sorry.
It's all good. Can you hear me
Can
now?
you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me, dude?
I can hear you.
Serious technical issues. I'm sorry.
Hey, it's all good.
Let me see why I can't get this to in-call group. Trying everything, dude.
Yeah, it's
I'm
all
trying.
good. It's cool, man. It's cool. Are you using your phone?
Settings. Internal microphone.
I can hear you. You can't hear me, I guess.
How's that? Any different?
I can still hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Damn it. Here, I'm gonna. There's got to be a way to do this. We were good a second ago.
Right? There's a little bit of delay, but you can't hear me? You can't hear me, eh?
All right. Let me figure this shit out.
Yeah, it's all good. Use your phone?
Get help. Network microphone, speakers, video calling. Check your computer's hardware settings. Make sure your computer microphone on. Phone. All right.
Use your phone.
Yeah, I don't have message.
Just message him. So I can hear you.
You can see. All right.
That's awesome.
So you can hear me. I can't hear you. Can you check all your mic stuff?
Hold on. I have only a mic on my phone.
That's it. Mic on my phone.
That's it.
Oh.
So that's it. That's it.
Okay. All right. Let me install Messenger on my phone then. All right. Real time.
Sounds good.
Technology.
Sounds good. See, this is how we do it, right? This is all new to us. Now we're just hanging out.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm a Luddite to begin with. I'm sorry.
So, yeah, we're just hanging out here. We're watching ourselves try to get. Oh man, I personally for Carcass, it is Symphonies of Sickness by a mile. I don't care. I like Necroticism.
Install. Okay.
I like that album a lot. I like Reek.
I'm taking this right off my phone after I install this. I swear to God, it'll be that.
So you can't hear me then.
This is just for you, Cam. And then I am.
That's it.
I'm obliterating this the second that this is done. All right. I would not like notifications. Don't worry. Okay, right. I am here.
All right.
So, want to end this and try to ring me on this? Cam?
Hey.
Success?
There we are. Is that better? I can hear you now.
Dude, I still can't hear you.
Really?
Hang on.
Wow. That's weird.
I've got silent mode off.
Oh, hello? Hello?
I can't hear you.
Can't hear me. Can't hear me. Can't hear me.
I got nothing here.
Oh, man.
Maybe I turn it sideways.
Maybe.
God damn it.
Shit, eh? And you're on your phone.
So. How about I call you? That seemed to work.
Call me. All right. All right.
I am, yeah.
All right. Call me. Call me on the Facebook. Let's do it. Well, what happened? What happened? Answer. Hello? 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 Hello?
All right, here's my next. I can't hear you still.
Ah.
So I'm going to do audio call, and we're just going to see what happens there.
Okay.
Everybody can imagine how shitty I look. So we'll just do that. We're just going to give this a shot. That's
all right.
step.
All right. All right. Let's do it.
Troubleshooting in real time. Back at you in a second.
This is hilarious. Guess we just do audio. We're just doing audio. Hello? Hi?
Carol?
Hi? 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 Hi?
Son of a bitch.
Hi? No way.
Alright, microphone? No, it's
No.
record button.
Yeah. Hello? 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 This is what's happening. What's going on?
Trying video.
What's going on here? What's going on? Let's try the video chat there. See, and then I accept it. And then, so you're there again, but nothing. Nothing. Nothing.
I got nothing. I can't hear shit, dude. Do we want to do like an actual just phone call?
I'm using this phone that I'm. This phone.
Yeah. You want to?
Hold on.
FaceTime?
Hold on. This phone
All right,
is not in service. The one I use is live streaming now.
Amazing.
So I'd had, yeah. Okay.
We just make this like.
How about I ask the questions and you answer?
How about? Let's fucking do it. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. You ask, you type, and then I'll answer. Right. Perfect. Let's do that.
Yes.
Right. I love it.
Yep. That's all you're going to get. So, who are you and what do you do?
So who am I and what do I do? I'm Albert Mudrian. I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Decibel Magazine, which I started 16 years ago in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. We are the only monthly heavy metal magazine in North America at this point. Our concentration is extreme metal, so that is a lot of death metal, black metal, doom metal, hardcore, noise, things like of that nature. But we do have a pretty wide palette where we can cover things like Lamb of God, we can cover old school stuff like Maiden and Priest, but we try to mix it up, try to keep it interesting, but keep the umbrella wide enough that it doesn't get boring for me.
Right. All right. Let's try this. I'm going to try voice to text. Hold on. So what made you want to start a magazine?
Oh, look at this.
So what made you want to start a magazine?
Look at that. Oh, wow. See, now you're really, technology is down. You're quick on your feet, Cam. I'm into it. What made me want to start a magazine? I guess I felt that there was a void, at least in the American market, in terms of magazines that covered underground metal, but did so in the way that I wanted to read about it. I wanted something that I thought was authoritative, had a sense of history, was able to look forwards and backwards at the same time, but had a sense of humor, I guess. Something that, like, where the feel of it was more from zine culture, where you could read a really negative review and laugh your ass off kind of thing, versus everybody always trying to be too prim and proper with their style, basically trying to avoid writers who essentially were interested in impressing one another. I never really got into that, and I saw a lot of that in a lot of the more glossier high-end magazines. So for me, it was like I wanted to bring something that that had that feel of a glossy magazine that you could go into a big bookstore and buy, but when you opened it up, you knew it was people who were more invested in the underground than people who just wanted a writing gig. All right, I'm gonna press play. Everybody always trying to be. That's me. Okay.
No, listen to it. Hold on. Listen to it. About funny.
Listen to what you just said, right?
Editors.
Like Panko.
That guy.
Yes. Good friend of ours.
He is funny. He's a funny gentleman. And I miss him. I miss him so. I wish I got to hang out with him at Metal and Beer Fest and MBF. But I'm sure we'll connect again. Doomhall? Oh God, yeah, man. I've got copies of that thing. That thing. I think in the closet somewhere down here in the basement, far away from the children, is the porn issue, the animal issue, a lot of Panko's greatest hits in those. But yeah, I was definitely a fan of Doomhall. He had he's always just been really sharp, really funny. Maybe even a little abrasive for some people, at least within his writing, not necessarily his personality.
Yeah.
But when he's written, Jesus, I think we're working on issue 189 right now of Decibel, and he's written for every single one.
Wow.
So
wow.
He's been around the longest, and he's taken a lot of the he was a target for a lot of people for a long time. A lot of people would would receive a negative review, he was really like the subject. Like, why do you have that guy write for you? It's like, well,
Right.
he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I'm sorry that he's very honest and it really hurts your very sensitive feelings. But no, Panko is great news. He's one of my favorites. Like he's one of those people I couldn't imagine doing the magazine without. He's just,
Right
16 years every single issue. It's hard. It really is impossible to imagine it without him.
Yeah. I mean, Doomhauled myself. I've been reading and been in contact with him for the last like 28 years now, right? So he's a good friend. All right. So at the time you had Metal Maniacs, Terrorizer, and what else was there back then?
All right.
So at the time you had Metal Maniacs, Terrorizer, and what else was there back then?
Did you forget about Unrestrained and You Poser Canadian You? Come on. No, dude, seriously, there was, at the time when we started, there were a ton of magazines that kind of came out of nowhere. There was something called Throat Culture that I remember seeing on the racks for a really brief period of time. There were things like Outburn magazine, which tried to be somewhere in between what Revolver was doing and what Alternative Press was doing. There was a ton of stuff. Oh yeah, Pit magazine was still
magazine,
going. Yeah. There were a lot of glossy metal magazines available, but I felt like they were all like of various levels of quality and stylistically and in terms of their production values, that maybe they just all used the crappiest promo photos. For some it was like apparent that the writers weren't paid, whereas they didn't really have a great kind of feel to them. I mean, I grew up reading, I'm 40, I'll be 45 in a couple months, so I grew up reading like Metal Maniacs in the States, as far as like bigger, more accessible magazines that you can get in the stores. And then a couple of years later, Terrorizer came out. I think Terrorizer came out in like 93. And then you had to work to get your hands on some import copies of it. I think between that, though, maybe 92, there was, I don't know if you remember, what was it, Extreme Noise? Was this really brief run magazine. There was a lot of people who would go on to be part of Terrorizer and kind of form out of that. And then there was some crossover with Maniacs too, because I remember Borvoy wrote for both Maniacs and Extreme Noise at the time. Yeah, there were those, like, Maniacs was super influential on me as a fan. And then I think Terrorizer was more influential on me as an editor and somebody who was interested in making and building a magazine with its own feel to it.
Wow.
But there was, at the time, there were a lot of record stores, or a lot of bookstores, so you can go in and, there were tons of magazine racks because there were tons of magazines, there were tons of product. So yeah, it was a different time, but there were a lot more choices out there.
So it's been scary running a magazine through all these tumultuous times through metal over the last 17 years?
All right, I just want to take a second to give you another shout out for conducting this way. This is fucking awesome. I'm so into this. All right.
So it's been scary running a magazine through all these tumultuous times through metal over the last 17 years?
Yeah, I mean, you see a lot of stuff. Come and go, honestly. Pretty much every single magazine I mentioned, with the exception of Revolver, I guess. And I have absolutely no idea how they've managed to stay in business. Honestly, I'm not even trying to throw shade. I don't know what magic dust they're sprinkling on it to make it work. But if they make it work, more power to them. But yeah, we've seen the rise of digital music. We've seen the rise of the internet. We've seen people proclaiming the death of print at all times. We've seen the music industry contract considerably. We survived the recession, the global recession of 08, 09, and now we get to go toe-to-toe with a pandemic, which is taking a huge hit with, out of the music industry, out of smaller record labels, out of larger record labels. It's forced us to cancel our annual tour. It's forced us to postpone the Philadelphia edition of our annual Metal and Beer Fest. So, we're fortunate in that we do a lot of things. So if something isn't working, we can make up for it elsewhere. We could sustain a hit of maybe not being able to do the tour one year. We make that up with, subscriptions. We can make that up with book sales because we publish books, whatever. We do a lot of things. So we have a lot of different streams that might be able to balance it out. Whereas if we were just reliant only on the magazine, we might be in a little trouble. So this is the most unique challenge I think that we've ever faced, because it's such a fluid situation and everything is changing so quickly. The variables, every day there's something new. It really has it's forced us to try to think. We're working really far ahead as a monthly magazine, and then as a live events producer and a book publisher. You're working 2 years out on books. Mm-hmm. You're working months out on magazines. You're working 6 months to a year out on, well, more like a year out on festivals. So not knowing that, not being able to predict that landscape that far out is very difficult, but you just kind of have to you kind of have to take the information that's out there and kind of make your best guesses, and then be prepared to shift immediately.
Right. So.
And drink a lot. Drink a lot.
Trying not to drink too much, just because I like I mentioned in the monologue earlier or whatever, that it makes me have munchies, and I don't want to eat, and I have to slow down on eating because I was starting to blow up a bit.
Try not to drink too much, just because I like I mentioned in the monologue earlier or whatever, that it makes me have munchies, and I don't want to eat, and I have to slow down on eating because I was starting to blow up a bit.
Well, I'd say that you have, under quarantine, you have more opportunity to exercise too.
Yes.
You can do both, man. You can try a whole bunch of different drinks. You can try a whole bunch of different snacks, but then you can carve out an hour to go work out, go for a run, go for a bike ride, do some weights, whatever it is. You have the time. The time is there. Not as much for me, since I have 2 small children, and my wife is with me. We're all, she's working from home right now too. So it's a full house, tagging in and out during the day, trying to, make sure everybody's able to get their work done. But the truth of the matter is, it's like, there's only so much you can get done, and then I'll be up second shift once everybody's asleep, and there's relative silence in the house, so I can get some stuff done.
Well, you're mostly stuck inside anyways, just because that is your job, is a lot of just computer work anyways. So it hasn't really changed for you?
Well, you're mostly stuck inside anyways, just because that is your job. Is a lot of just computer work anyways. So it hasn't really changed for you?
No, it hasn't. In some ways, yeah. I mean, I work from home. I started the magazine in Philadelphia in 2004, and I moved to Northern Virginia at the end of 2008. And I've been doing the magazine remotely since the publishing company is still based in Philadelphia. So I've been working from home for 11 years. What I have not been doing for 11 years is having two small children coming up to my desk several times a day, and me having to take breaks to try to make sure they're actually getting some of their homeschooling done from the time they're missing in school. That's been a unique challenge, but the day-to-day of me not having to put pants on if I don't want to work, that has not changed in that respect. That's still pretty much the same. So I haven't worked in an office environment in a long time. I am probably not employable at this point based on what I have turned into. So I need to make this work is what I'm saying, because no one will take me after that.
No choice.
Oh man, 2014. Oh wow. Yeah, no, my kids are 8 and 5, so they require a little more attention. But yeah, 20 and 14,
and my boys.
You're in 14 seems tough. 14 seems tough. Is that?
He doesn't talk to
news?
me much. Teen angst.
Dad's lame. Go play your shitty Markham demos downstairs, Dad.
Oh shit! It's true. It's true. It is.
Yeah, no, they, like right now, mine still like me. So, and I know that it's fleeting, and I sense they're getting more suspicious that Dad's lame. On a regular basis. But let me show you something cool. I have over here, and this will all make sense in a minute. But I have this is kind of our, I would guess, media area, which is kind of a room divider where I have a bunch of records and magazines and various stuff, so I kind of have like my own little office area. But over here, I have a bunch of not a very good cameraman, bunch of the editions of Choosing Death that have been published over the years. And my son, who's 5, just very recently just started asking all these questions about it. Like, he would talk about, he asked me like, Daddy, what's Choosing Death? What's this? What's that? And he'd go out and like pull some out and flip through various editions, and I just couldn't figure out like why he cared. But it dawned on me that it's like eye level, like right where it is. It's just like that. It's like he's like 3 feet tall, so he just walks up to it and boom, like that's the only thing he's like seeing. So I was like, okay, cool. But he did, and I posted this I think on the Decibel Instagram. He did make his own little Choosing Death pocketbook. And put it on my desk a few days ago, which I now have, which I've kept, and it's now filed here with in the back pages at the end, of course. But it's now here on the shelf with the other editions.
That's amazing. Oh man. Oh,
pretty rad.
That's amazing. I'm texting this to him while he's doing this too.
Yeah, it's not. Again, he's gonna find out that Dad's lame, and pretend he never did that or ask me to recycle it soon enough. Trust me. There's no doubt in my mind.
So you started Choosing Death many years ago, did an edition, and then several years later doing another edition, just because of the state of death metal and what happened.
All right, Cam, question.
So you started Choosing Death many years ago, did an edition, and then several years later doing another edition, just because of the state of death metal and what happened.
Yeah. All right. So I first started working on the first Choosing Death back in 2002. Oh, look at that. Bazillion Points edition. Very nice. Ian Christie, very proud. Thank you. Thank you for that. I started working on the first one in 2002. I think it came out in 2014 or 2004 on Feral House, and it was a much different time. Like there were bookstores everywhere. There in the U.S. there was Barnes and Nobles and Borders and Books a Million, Hastings, and all these major book chains where you would go in and there would just be aisles and thousands of books that people were stocking. And when I was working on this book, my hope was to get with a publisher who would have this great distribution. And Feral House, who published, in terms of extreme music books, obviously they published Lords of Chaos, they published American Hardcore, they published a book about the punk band The Germs. For me, it seemed like a logical place to reach out to see if they would do take on Choosing Death. Again, because they had experience with these books and they had this great distribution, so I was like, all right, let me do this. So it actually worked out. They published the book, and then 10 or so years later, around 2014, I started kicking around the idea of doing an updated version, because so much had happened in that decade period. So many of the bands that I had written about as core bands of the original book, whether it was like Carcass or Terrorizer or At the Gates or Gore Guts or Atheist or whoever, it was like all of those bands, Brutal Truth, they all were broken up when I was writing the first edition. By the time, 10 years later, they'd all reformed, and there was this this renaissance happening with old school death metal, where old school bands were reforming. You had this movement of newer bands who were just stylistically old school death metal that had come out that weren't around before. Bands like Death Evocation, even Death Breath from Nick A. Anderson, ex Entombed. Mm-hmm. So to me, it's like I saw all this stuff happening, and I was like, man, I would really like to write about what has happened over the past 10 years, and I would also really like to fix some of the things that I felt I fucked up on the first one. So I started working on it, and the intention was to put it out on Feral House, who did the first book. You have the new edition. Yeah, that's the newest. You have the most recent one. There's basically three that I'll talk about. I'm going to hop into the second one real quick. So the intention was to put this revised edition out at Feral House, and when I started talking with them, I had ideas of I wanted to step up the production of it. I wanted to have better paper. I wanted it to have deeper edits. I wanted to spend more time. I wanted it to be 100 more pages than the first one. I wanted all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And the more I talked to Feral House, the more they were like fine with putting out another version of it. But at the same time, I could just sense there wasn't enthusiasm there, and I could tell they didn't really care that much. So Decibel's or the publishing company that Decibel is printed under is this company called Red Flag Media. The owner is somebody I've worked with for over 20 some years now. So he knows me really well. He knows, like we have a really good relationship, and was basically like, look, if you want to go 50-50 and try to buy out Feral House, we can publish this via Decibel Books. We'll start a booking print of Decibel, and we'll get this out the way you want it. You can do a hardcover, do a limited run of it. Because I've been talking to Dan Seagrave about doing the cover art, which obviously nerds dream. I mean, it's like, come on. And I worked with Dan on it closely, and it's like, the whole idea of it is like kind of an homage to the old school covers that he had done in the past, like Morbid Angels, Authors of Madness, and Dismember, like Never Flowing Stream, There's some elements of Entomb Clandestine in there. It's kind of like a mishmash of all of it. In fact, the actual title of the painting itself is called Origins of Madness, and it was like supposed to be essentially like kind of like, you know, those little demon cluster balls on Clandestine. It's like they're like, this is kind of where they came from, and you know, the like never flowing stream, like sea of hell. It's like this is the ground right above it. It's like all this stuff is just like woven in a super nerdy way, which I was obviously all about for this project. But anyway, you know, the owner of the publishing company, Alex, and I ended up buying out Feral House. Buying out Choosing Death cost a fucking shit ton of money, but it felt like the right thing to do. And we published 3,000 hardcover editions of a revised version of Choosing Death in 2015. We sold them out within about a year and a half. And at that point, I wanted, as we were getting close to selling out, it's like I knew I wanted the book to kind of live on and not just be done, you know, like because I had the rights. The Feral House version was out of print. This hardcover limited edition was out of print. So I hooked up with Ian Christie from Bazillion Points, who'd been a good friend of mine for a long time. We had always talked about trying to work together. In fact, several years ago, we were supposed to work on a Chuck Schuldiner book together, and we both ran out of time because we both had our second kids, and we were unable to. We realized that would be a fool's errand trying to get that together, so we kind of aborted that mission. But I still, you know, I knew him really well, and I knew he was just a great guy and believed in books like Choosing Death. So I hooked up with him, and we published the paperback edition of this together, which is the pretty much the ultimate edition of the book, which is now in print. I updated things from the revised edition, from a year ago, from when it was supposed to be, that year being 2015 into 2016. So that came out in 2016. That is really kind of the ultimate edition of the books. I believe Ian even refers to it as the Death Lux edition of the book. But that, what you have there, that's the version you want at this point. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that's the long winding tale of all the versions of Choosing Death.
No. And on Bazillion.
Yeah, on Bazillion Points. Yes. It's a beauty.
Oh, yeah.
It's 400 pages. It's like 16 color pages of all kinds of crazy old school pics in the middle. But there's a foreword by Scott Carlson of Repulsion, very flattering, makes me very happy, and another foreword by the late John Peel, legendary BBC One DJ, who was responsible for exposing bands like Extreme Noise Terror and Carcass and Napalm Death to international audiences. Well,
with cool European recordings.
That tower didn't reach America back in the 80s, but it's super influential DJ. I'm sure everybody listening to this has heard a Peel session or two at one point in time.
I would fucking hope so. Yeah, I would hope so. Especially the Napalm Death one, man. That's fucking the Napalm Death Peel sessions. Unbelievable. Napalm Peel sessions, the best.
It is. Napalm Peel sessions. Jesus Christ. That first one is just so ridiculously fast. When you were talking earlier about your love of underground demos and having that feel, when you were talking about Slap a Ham stuff in particular, and I got to give a shout out to Chris Dodge from Spaz, who is a Decibel contributor and does our our monthly beer column, our monthly craft
Sweet.
beer column. God bless him, called No Corporate Beer. And he's also in Trappist, who are one of the greatest beer punk metal bands ever. But when you're talking about that feel of you feel like you're there as they're recording, because it's just so raw and it's just like it's just hitting you. That's how I feel about those first Napalm Peel sessions, where it's just this pure explosion that if you go back and if you listen to Scum, if you listen to Fido, if you listen to Mentally Murdered, like it sounds great, but that energy that's on those Peel sessions is unlike anything else up to that point. Yep. in terms of the Napalm stuff. It's fantastic.
Literally. I mean, like just like he said, if you go back, listen to side 1 of Scum, side 2 of Scum, Fido, Mentally Murdered, and then beyond that. But that one Peel sessions, also North. Fuck this. Hold on. Let's do this. Also, the North Atlantic Noise Attack. There's 3 songs on that. If you've heard that compilation, it's all UK hardcore bands with like Extreme Noise Terror, Heresy, Jail Cell Recipes, all that kind of stuff.
It's like opening a Christmas present when it comes to it.
Also, the North Atlantic Noise Attack. There's 3 songs on that. If you've heard that compilation, it's all UK hardcore bands with like Extreme Noise Terror, Heresy, Jail Cell Recipes, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that was that. I think of that, and then I think of the Pathological compilation. You know that thing?
No.
All right, here, wait, hang on a second. Let me find that.
All right, bring it on.
It'll be under P, right? It's a compilation. I'm revealing the limitations of my filing.
Yeah, I'm terrible at. I don't alphabetize either.
Pathological comp was seriously fucked up, and it came out like right around that time. All right, this is it. It's not much. It's not a whole lot to look at, but if you look up there, what can you see? Am I getting this right? The actual, I'm fucking this all up. I'll just read it off. Carcass, Coil, Godflesh, Napalm Death, Stretch Heads, Terminal Cheesecake. So this was this like totally fucking weird thing that Eric was kind of involved with. This would have been like 88, maybe 88, 89. And this is like, to me, it's like kind of the death metal version, or the death metal weird version of that punk comp, because there was there were 2 Carcass songs on here. I can't remember which ones, but it was recorded. I think it was recorded between Reek and Symphonies. Yeah, they're different recordings.
Oh,
it's not the recordings that are on Reek. Or on Symphonies, rather.
Wow.
And it was like, I don't know, it's just a really weird anomaly, but look it up. But to me, that's one of those things that were all these, like, if you go like 87, 88, 89, there are, think about just the Grind Crusher compilation. That's got to be, that's 89, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, like, those things were super, super important in the whole development of that. For $5 or £5 or whatever, you'd make that very minimal investment and come out of it with like half a dozen bands to obsess over.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there was a few compilations back at the time too, and like Seraphic Decay had their compilation, and then even Relapse Corporate Death compilation had different recordings from bands also.
Yeah, there was a few compilations back at the time too, and like Seraphic Decay had their compilation, and then even Relapse Corporate Death compilation had different recordings from bands also.
Yeah, corporate death, seraphic. The seraphic to gay stuff was just that was like essentially a collection of the 7 inches that they would put out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was that. There was, Jesus, what the fuck was that other thing that was called? That was European, and it was like you only got it. Like I never had this, an actual copy of it, but this was only stuff you would end up getting via trade. It was what Projections of a Stained Mind. You heard of that?
No.
That one? That was like, it was mostly like the European death metal stuff that was happening at the time. I think it was like Nihilist was on there, Tiamat, some other shit. What the fuck was on there? But then there was like, the reason that anybody like collects it still though is because there were like 2 Mayhem tracks on there. This was 90. So like, it was like the 2 Mayhem songs with Dead that he actually recorded in the studio. But the rest of the comp was very death metal. I think Mayhem was the only black metal thing on it, but it was on Chicken Brain Records. That was the name of the label. But yeah, I mean, Corporate Death, like those were all like, oh man, this is gonna just sound utterly ridiculous, but like when I first saw that, like I didn't get the joke. I thought that was like actually like Relapse's.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, oh wow, like boy, they are huge, you know. And then many years later, I had the privilege of visiting Relapse back when they were still in Millersville, and worked. They were underneath the. They were underneath a. It was a Christmas store or something weird. It was like a seasonal Christmas shop, and I guess it was like closed most of the year, or they were preparing stuff like elves for the Christmas season that would follow or something. But yeah, it's like they were in there. It was so weird. But yeah, no, I totally believe that was their offices.
So why did you go into death metal the most? Like you did a book, you started a magazine and everything like that, but death metal, what is it about death metal that got you hooked?
So why did you go into death metal the most? Like you did a book, you started a magazine and everything like that, but death metal, what is it about death metal that got you hooked?
Death metal. I don't know, man. I gotta be honest, like the first time I heard death metal, I was probably like 14 and I was not having it. It was the first death metal record I heard would have been Symphonies of Sickness, and it was like I was not ready. I was not prepared. I needed no. I would much prefer Testament, Practice What You Preach. Thank you very much. I know that's not dangerous at all. I'll take that. Yeah, no, man. I like, for whatever reason, I always liked hard rock and heavy metal, and then I think as you kind of evolved with as a fan, once you kind of get a little bit into thrash and you just start opening it up and like looking for heavier sounds and heavier things, that just continue to push the envelope. Like once you make those like kind of gradual steps, and then you're all in. Like I can't say like, oh, what is that like drew me to it. It just seems like it was kind of that natural progression. Mm-hmm. But what I will say is that as I kind of grew up and got into other sounds, like after death metal, after I became a death metal fan, and I got into stuff like underground extreme doom metal or underground black metal, or more kind of punk and hardcore stuff, or more even alternative stuff, or just weird experimental shit. As I cycled through everything, I still had this connection to these death metal records that I grew up with when I was 15, 16, and they just somehow, I just felt closer to them than anything else. If that, I don't know exactly how to describe it, yep. But I just felt this this connection to them that I didn't I liked all this other music, and I still I still try to appreciate other sounds when I can, just to break things up, especially with considering what my job is. But like, that was, for whatever reason, that just kind of resonated with me, and something that like I got away from it for a few years, but I went back to it, because I'd already been writing about just extreme metal in general, and working as kind of a music journalist like from 1996 on. But for me, like, those early records were just so classic and important, and I felt by around 2000 in particular that people were already kind of forgetting the history of that stuff, and maybe it wasn't recognized as powerfully as it should. I mean, because like you start thinking back, and even like as the whole black metal boom happened in the early 90s to the mid 90s, like nobody really talked about how completely fucking derivative black metal was of death metal, and nobody like nobody like, when everybody like was praising black metal as this crazy artistic format, people didn't stop to say like, well, yeah, but these guys, like, without what these guys are doing, these death metal bands, like, none of this happens. And then even as like other forms got more extreme, like hardcore got more extreme, doom got more extreme, death doom was really kind of blossoming, and then even as you had that kind of mainstreaming of some metal sounds, like whether it was like Deftones or Slipknot or whatever, like these bands that would kind of break into the charts, like nobody, like, obviously people understood where it comes from, but nobody was writing about it or giving it the credit that it deserves. So for me, I guess I also felt some kind of weird responsibility that like, hey, nobody's connecting these dots. No one is telling this story. And, this is like, I started working on Choosing Death in 2002, but I started, like, seriously considered doing it in about 2000. So it's like around that period, I really just felt like this doesn't get the play it deserves. This doesn't get the recognition it deserves. And I just couldn't fucking believe that nobody had written a book about it yet, honestly. Like, I was just like, because like by that time, obviously the genre was like, had 15 years of history, and it seemed like it obviously made this huge cultural and musical impact. Like, why does this not exist?
Right.
So it's kind of a long way of saying, like, how did I end up with death metal? Yeah. But it was like, I felt like, again, like there was this responsibility that I almost felt like death metal had sort of been neglected in that sense, and I wanted to make sure that I could right that wrong. Exactly.
That's why we're doing the documentary.
Again, there's no like. There are resources now. There are resources out there that we didn't have 15 years ago or whatever. Oh, yeah. But a way to succinctly articulate them through a documentary or through a book versus an exhaustive database. You know what I mean? Like, there's two different things. Like, the exhaustive database, like, when you're talking about Metal Archives, God fucking bless them, I couldn't imagine going a day without going on there and looking something up. Yeah. But, like, this, and that stuff is great, and it's necessary, but, like, again, like, trying to articulate what this stuff is and what it means, where it comes from, you can't really get that there. So, that's why you need to do the Growl documentary. Yeah, I agree. Writing and filming it's a different approach to it, because you have to tell a story, and the story it has to go somewhere. It can't just be this encyclopedic list of bands and records. And again, those things are completely necessary and invaluable. And we can't. And I think that I can honestly say, and I'm sure you can say this too at this point, based on how far-reaching you're going with the Growl documentary. is that we couldn't do these things without something now like Metallium. I know that like it's like in terms of fact checking, like I use it regularly when copy editing Decibel.
Yep.
I will say there's fucked up things there I see all the time though. They don't have an account, and I'm not going to bother to fix. That's not my problem. But still, God bless him. I don't know what we would do without it.
Okay, let's so with doing the book and the magazine and everything like that, with the state of death metal that it's in now, what are some of the bands that you feel are leading this new trend? And is it nice to see all the old schools really giving it again and feeling like they're wanted again, I guess you could say? The chords and...
So with doing the book and the magazine and everything like that, with the state of death metal that it's in now, what are some of the bands that you feel are leading this new trend? And is it nice to see all the old schools really giving it again and feeling like they're wanted again, I guess you could say?
Yeah. I think that what we have now is this really unique period of you have these bands that were originators who are back. You have these bands that have like kind of come up with their own sound since post the originators, developed their own thing and have had success. And then you've got bands that have come up just emulating the originators, paying homage, doing their own thing. And then you have other bands that are like doing a combination of that, and then other bands are just on their own fucking path that got like no connection to anything. Yeah. So you've got this like really robust scene where there are so many choices right now with like as a death metal fan. Like it used to be one thing where it'd be like, oh, you're a metal fan, you like metal. Nobody would even ask you what kind of metal you were into. It was like, you just like metal. So that meant everything from, you know, Slayer, Metallica, to Judas Priest, to Skid Row, or fucking ever. It was everything. Yep. But then, you know, by, you know, the early 90s, it was like, well, what kind of metal are you into? And it was like, oh, yeah, you know, well, I'm into death metal. I'm into grindcore. I don't like thrash. I don't like power metal. I don't like whatever. Now we're at the point where it's like, oh, you're into death metal. What kind of death metal are you into? And that's a whole like different world that we're entering now in that sense, and that's really cool because I mean I won't lie, I don't like every kind of death metal. I appreciate it for what it is, and anybody who's playing something aggressive and extreme, like I give it up for them. I know what the ceiling is in terms of commercial success with something like that. It's not high. So like I you know, they have my respect even if I'm not going to sit around and listen too much to it. But I think I think we're in that really cool space where if you're a death metal fan, you have so many different choices, and obviously, you know, the idea of tapes and zines compared to what that was in the 80s and 90s. Now just the inexhaustible well of the internet, and even before when you were like going down the YouTube rabbit hole and you found that what was that label that started with an H? You can say it, I won't hear you. Oh, it was one that Markham came. Oh,
Hatros.
Yeah, okay.
Hatros.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Like
Hatros.
All of that stuff. Like yeah.
Hatros.
Like that's like again that's so many different things. There's so many different styles, so many different types of death metal. Hatros. That's what it is. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Halitosis. All right. But like I guess it's like it's an overwhelming amount of things to choose from, but at the same time it's really cool because it's like you can just carve your own niche of the style that you're into if you want, and just be like, hey man, I only like brutal technical death metal. I'd be like, okay, I'm sorry, but cool, go for it, knock yourself out. But you can do that now, and that was not possible when we were growing up. You know, you had to, you know, be like, well, I don't know about this Hell Witch demo, but they're a death metal band. Okay, I'm gonna listen to it. You know, like it was like you just took everything that you got, you kind of appreciated it in that sense, and now you can cross stuff off. You can not only cross bands off your list, you can cross whole subgenres off your list if you want.
Oh fuck yeah!
So that is cool. You asked, what am I listening to now?
Yeah.
Well, Decibel is working on not a special issue, but a themed issue, which is devoted to the year 1995, because it's the 25th anniversary of 1995, and as we are entering this weird period of the music industry not really knowing if it's going to get records out as it had originally planned, I thought, rather than cover a bunch of things that may or may not get released by the time we send something to print, that if we did some kind of retrospective issue on a certain time period, it would be, be evergreen, and it would give us, and it would give the labels another month to kind of catch up with their releases and their release schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So by the time we got to another issue that would be out in July or August, things could kind of get maybe a little more settled and kind of caught up in that sense. So I've been listening to a lot of records from 1995, and 1995 is not a great year for traditional death metal, but it's a pretty good year for melodic death metal, and it's a very not so wild as 96, brother. But you have really interesting, really interesting, like kind of more melodic side of things with stuff that's almost like vaguely black metal influenced, things like Dissection and Unanimated. Ancient God of Evil record is like just so very melodic, but so like killer. Because I haven't revisited these records in a long time. But it's like, it's really all over the map. It's like you had like Paradise Lost making classic metal albums. You had like Monster Magnet having borderline mainstream success. At the Gates obviously have Slaughter of the Soul. It's like kind of hardcore and metalcore stuff like Dead Guy and Earth Crisis are coming up and making their most important records. It's a really interesting time that and the whole death metal, the whole like Peaceville 3 like death doom thing is booming with My Dying Bride and Anathema, and then tons of bands influenced by that. Black metal is actually getting interesting, like with experimental bands like Void Benendez, and I don't know, man. I've been really like revisiting it because I was 20 years old at the time. Oh yeah, Black Park Productions. There must have been like 5 or 6 Edge of Sanity records that year, I'm sure. It was this really fertile time for stuff like going in experimental directions, kind of pushing the envelope. There aren't a lot of great old school death metal records. Suffocation, Pierce from Within is one of that year that I think really like stands out, like head and shoulders above pretty much everything else. I'm not a huge Deicide fan personally, but there's a lot of people who are like way into Once Upon the Cross. That's that year. So there's stuff to choose from, but it's a year that's kind of more defined by things like bands that were death metal bands who just weren't playing death metal anymore, like Sentenced, Amok was that year. You had this, you had these things, there's a lot of branching out, but it's a really fascinating year to kind of look back on and dissect. That's the other thing too. It's like the underground itself, like it
was
was
getting brutal during that time.
Everything kind of crested in the years leading up to it. You had the whole, you had Morbid Angel on Giant Records for 2 album Dominations that year, actually.
Yeah.
But you had like Covenant and Domination on a major label. You had the whole Earache Columbia deal, 93, 94. So like, this is like, it is kind of the year where it's like, all the majors are like, oh wait, fuck this doesn't work. Let's get rid of this. And then when that happens, it just makes complete sense that things would kind of like start swinging back underground. Yeah, and
totally.
so it is.
Yep.
The Second Incantation records that year too. Now that I think about it, yeah. But anyway, there's a lot of interesting things for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like as I was saying, brutal death metal was starting to come up in the background. Like the Ohio scene was really kicking, and Balmer really never left. And just the brutal suffocation sound was starting to like really feel itself in the background with Dying Fetus, all that kind of shit.
As I was saying, brutal death metal was starting to come up in the background. Like the Ohio scene was really kicking it. Balmer really never left. And just the brutal suffocation sound was starting to like really feel itself in the background. Dying Fetus, all that kind of shit.
Yeah, you had I think that's the year that slams were probably kind of coming into vogue. I mean, I haven't looked up, but there must have been a Pyrexia record in '95 or something, right? I got to think that. I don't know. What year Sermon of Mockery? It's not '95, is it?
No, that's earlier.
No. But yeah, you got. I mean, Dying Fetus, the Cryptopsy are between records, but obviously they've established things. They've established things with Blasphemy Made Flesh and like. Not So Vile's right around the corner. I agree that that's kind of the year too that it's like that stuff's about to is kind of bubbling under, and like the sound that's really gonna like push that genre honestly into what it kind of still is today. Like 95 is really important in that sense. Yeah, everybody gets sick. Everybody got sick of. Everybody was done with the overly melodic Swedish sound that had happened. Everybody was done with death metal bands kind of progressing out of the genre.
Out of death metal.
Like all of that stuff needed to happen to fracture.
Yep.
To fracture the genre so it could evolve into what we were just talking about. What it is. Oh yeah.
And then new metal blew up.
We didn't talk about that whole new metal thing.
Oh my god!
The cover story too, a little bit at the end, because it's like you had '94 is the first Korn record, and then the first Deftones record's '95, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But like I think the super duper horrible new metal garbage is probably still like a couple of years away from really taking hold.
Yeah.
But the roots of it are sown definitely in '95. Where like if you're looking closely enough, you could see that kind of robust, really varied landscape that I talked about. But you could also see this idiocy was percolating just under the surface and was about to break out.
Sepultura.
We're going to do Roots.
Bloody Roots.
Yeah, Roots is '96.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were still.
Yeah, that's new metal. That's a new metal album.
KSOD is '93, which was distributed via Epic, so they kind of had their big moment. Was that Nail Bomb record '95? I don't know if you remember. Just trying to think of like kind of the groovier Sepultura. Yeah, Roots. The last Sepultura record I love is Arise, to be honest, and then it's kind of. What are you gonna do? I've been trying. Every new one that rolls around, I keep. Everybody's like, "Oh, this is a return to form." Okay, cool. Let's try it. All right.
Well, it's the Cavalera conspiracy. It's better.
but I tried at least. What are you doing?
That's right. All right. Well, it's the Cavalera conspiracy. It's better.
You're right. You're right about that. That is better.
Sorry.
We're together. That might be the combination that they need to go forward.
Yes.
That's all they need, really.
Yep. Totally. Let's see here. Where are we gonna go here? So are we writing anything else? Anything death metal related coming up with Decibel?
So are we writing anything else? Anything death metal related coming up with Decibel?
Fuck no. No, I mean, there's I'm not writing anything else right now. I'm barely able to write my editor's notes every month at this point. Like, everything. In fact, like everything that's happening right now in this brave new world that we're all living in, for me personally, is completely not conducive to writing anything personally. But I will say that, Decibel will obviously always be covering death metal in all kinds of styles and all kinds of forms of death metal. And we'll be doing, as long as provided there isn't a complete societal collapse, we will eventually come back with live events. I mean, I have some stuff that I'm trying to get scheduled for later this year in Los Angeles. We do 2 metal and beer fests a year, one in Philadelphia, one in Los Angeles. And we always have, there's always an element of death metal to our festival lineups. Last year in December in LA, the headliner one day was Possessed. The headliner the other day was Carcass. Yeah. I forget. I mean, we had Gruesome played that fest. I'm sure there's other Gatecreeper played. I'm sure there's other death metal bands I'm forgetting about, but there's always death metal. Oh yeah. We were gonna have Dad. Don't remind me. I think we're pretty fucking good. Here's the thing. That'll happen with the Napalm Death, Harmony, Corruption, Utopia, Banished set. That will happen eventually. It's not going to go away. It's not going to happen with anybody else. It'll happen at Decibel Metal and Beer Fest. Whether it's later this year, whether it's next year, I don't know yet. But it will happen. But yeah, I mean, dude, last year we did in Philly we did Obituary playing all of Cause of Death, which was
wow.
Yeah, I can definitely feel the goosebumps just thinking about that. That was insane. But it will always be a huge element of what we do. Yeah, Tomb Mold, they played last year. I absolutely love them. And I think I'm 99% sure that Derek from Tomb Mold has joined our friends in Outer Heaven on guitar. Philadelphia. Cool. Young death metal band who are really good and promising. So I think that's gonna be great. Yeah, good Relapse band.
Relapse Records.
Both bands. Because the more stuff that Derek's writing, the better. So yeah, there's all death metal it's the most important genre to me. And since I get to run Decibel, it's going to be most important genre ultimately to the magazine. It's not going to be, you're not going to get a death metal band on the cover of every issue.
No.
But
understandable.
There isn't an issue that's ever going to be printed that doesn't have something relevant about it in it. Trust me, because there'd be no reason for me to do this otherwise.
Of course. Any last words, my brother? Let's do it.
Any last words? Shout out to you, dude, for number one, seeing through this documentary, just because I know what a labor of love that has to be, because you're not doing this to make a bunch of money. I certainly didn't write Choosing Death with the idea of early retirement. I know what it's like. I know what the audience is. I know what the interest is. And I know how much work it is to put into something like that. So it's
Thank you.
Really super cool
Thank
to know that you're going to see that through.
Thank you.
And, you know, seeing through this ridiculous setup of technology and how it has failed us completely, yet you have found a way and persevered and executed this ridiculous interview. This is the ultimate like COVID-19 interview experience. I think like this is like I feel like this is like all the talk show hosts that have to do their shit from home right now. Like they wouldn't have pulled this off. They wouldn't have figured it out. And so like shout out to you and you know thank you again for inviting me to do this. It was a blast.
We can do this again sometime.
Yeah, you know, when we figure out how our fucking phones work, we'll do this. And when I'm smart enough to have like more than one beer available for the interview, that'll be the other. Yeah. So all right, you go do you get that filled. I'm gonna go do that and make sure the kids got to bed. Again, thank you for taking the time. There's still 13 masochists watching this, so shout outs to all of them also. And yeah, man. All right, guys, take care.
Peace. Rock and roll.
Cheers.
God damn, that was fucking cool as shit. Let's go back here. What's up, everybody? Yeah, I'm back online here now. So that worked out pretty good. For what we could do, that was fucking awesome. Yeah, Seagrave is the boss. Seagrave is the man. He totally is. So, man, that was a good long interview, man. Like, technology, eh? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And this is how we roll. You just gotta roll with the punches, man. At least I got you some information and shit, which was cool. And I'm glad that worked out, actually. Fucking right. Yeah, man. Right on. Yeah, Nick. I know, right? I was like, I mean, I do a lot of social media for just not only just like the documentary, our production company, Rabbit Dog Films. I have my own thing. I do some of it on the side for some businesses around here. So I've kind of figured out how to work some things in there. So it's kind of cool that, I have a little bit of background with that. Can't stop steal. Fucking right. Only death is real. What's up, guys, man? Hey, you're welcome. We're welcome, Aldo. I'm glad you enjoyed that little thing, man. I need to sit down with Albert, man. Like, there's so much to talk about, and he knows, we know, man. Like, it was the same with that whole thing with the Napalm Death Peel sessions, right? If you track that down, dude, like, I swear to God, that is probably one of the greatest Napalm recordings ever. Like, it's unbelievable. I love the early Napalm stuff myself. I love it. But holy shit, man. Like, that's fucking unbelievable. So I think it's been 2 hours. I really appreciate you all hanging out and stuff like that. Tomorrow we have Mike Bradley from Centenary with us tomorrow. Is that tomorrow? Yeah, it's tomorrow, Tuesday. Fuck. The only reason I know my days is because I'm doing this. If I fucking wasn't doing this, I literally would probably lose track of days. But tomorrow, we're going to be hanging out with fucking Mike from Centenary and talking about his band and talk about Detroit, right? Pretty sure, right? Detroit. Did I say that? Chicago, Detroit. Yeah. So, and we're going to see, talk about that scene, talk about how they just signed again, plug, CDN Records. CDN, yep, Detroit. So CDN Records, they just got signed to. New album, working on stuff, but you know what? Don't leave it to me to give you the information. We'll worry about Mike tomorrow, telling us all the juicy details about the band and the signing, you know? Anyways, thanks, man. Appreciate you hanging out. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to do this again. It just gets me in the groove and it gets me hanging out again. I fucking this shit's just driving me crazy, man. And it was raining. It was windy today. I couldn't get out on my bike today. So, anyways, thanks a lot, people, and we'll see you tomorrow. We'll see Mike tomorrow from Centenary, and hopefully we'll see everybody else. Been fucking reaching out to all kinds of people. People are getting back to me. We got some cool interviews coming up. We already got, like, next week is planned, so we're working on the week after, but let's fucking do it, all right? Thanks, everybody. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot.